Bashar al-Assad. Secretary Tillerson says those steps are underway, though a State Department official says what he was talking about as those steps being underway are already international negotiations ongoing in Geneva, ongoing at the United Nations, and that the United States, under the Trump administration, as it's only been in for a couple of months, is looking at options beyond that. There's also the Russia angle to this. You've been discussing it throughout the evening. He says that it's very important the Russian government consider carefully their continued support for the Assad regime. In just a week, the Secretary of State will be traveling to Russia. He will be meeting with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. There is no indication yet that those meetings have been suspended. Officials tell me that those meetings were a go as of this morning, and even with the events that have happened now, the Russians may change their mind on that, as some of the comments that we've heard from some of our analysis this evening. And I do want to point your attention to something the Russian government said earlier today when it comes about its support for Assad. A spokesperson saying, "I don't think it's correct to say about unconditional support. Unconditional support is not possible in the current world," though it goes on to say, "We have to keep in mind that Assad and his army is a legitimate power in Syria." So it's not this bulletproof support that you've seen or thought about from the Russian regime. All of this, as the U.S. is still saying, the Secretary of State will travel to Russia and will explore areas of a potential relationship where the U.S. and Russia can work together where it benefits the United States, Jeff.
Rich Edson live at the State Department tonight. Rich, thanks. I mentioned we got new word from the president speaking in South Florida, who said that it is in the vital national security interest, this strike tonight. More from the president now. He is calling for civilized nations, as he put it, to join the United States in, quote, seeking to end the slaughter and bloodshed in Syria, end quote. The question is, what is the risk of escalation? What is the risk that the Syrians continue their slaughter of their own people? What would the United States do next? You heard General Jack Keane suggest that the United States would act again. Tara Mahler is with us, former CIA military analyst, now a spokesman and senior policy advisor for the Counter-Extremism Project. Risk of escalation in your estimation?
There is a risk of escalation. There's always a risk of escalation when you launch 60 Tomahawk missiles on the sites of the Assad regime. Having said that, I think the Trump administration drew a clear red line on chemical weapons use, which clearly violates international norms. It is a horrific attack on innocent civilians, but it still remains to be seen what is the overarching Trump administration policy with regard to the Assad regime, with regard to U.S. troops in Syria, with regard to the potential creation of safe zones. So there are still a lot of larger looming policy questions. This is a substantial shift in U.S. foreign policy, but I don't think we sort of have a sort of longer-term outlook here in terms of what the Trump administration is going to do next. And I think it's critical that they gain coalition support for whatever their next moves actually are.
What sort of coalition might come together here? In the past, the coalitions were built first.